Did you know that a staggering 98% of deaths after 70 come down to just a few causes? Even more shocking, most of them are completely avoidable. It's not just about old age, it's not just about genetics, and it's definitely not about bad luck. There are specific, hidden killers that silently creep up over the years, and by the time they strike, it's often too late. But here's the good news. Once you know what they are, you can do something about them. Today, we're diving deep into the 5 most overlooked reasons why people die after 70, and more importantly, how you can avoid them to live longer, healthier, and more vibrant years ahead. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank all our subscribers. Your support, engagement, and commitment to staying informed mean the world to us. If you're new here, welcome. If you find value in what we're sharing today, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss out on life-changing insights like this. Now, let's get started. Number 5, chronic inflammation. Inflammation is supposed to be your body's friend. When you cut yourself, when you catch a cold, when your muscles are sore after a workout, that's inflammation at work, healing you. It's a natural defense mechanism meant to protect and repair. But what happens when that system never shuts off? Chronic inflammation is like a fire that never goes out. Instead of protecting you, it starts attacking your own body from the inside. And here's the real danger. Most people have no idea it's happening. There's no fever, no sharp pain, just slow, silent damage spreading day after day, year after year. By the time you reach 70, your immune system has spent decades fighting battles it was never supposed to fight. And the result? Weakening organs, stiffening arteries, and a skyrocketing risk of the very diseases that claim lives after 70. Heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and even cancer. A 20-year study published in The Lancet found that people with high levels of chronic inflammation had a 260% higher risk of early death. That means for every 10 people, 3 will die sooner than they should, simply because their bodies have been under attack for too long. But here's the good news. You can stop it. The first step? Food. Every bite you take is either fueling inflammation or fighting it. If your diet is full of processed foods, sugary drinks, and unhealthy fats, your body stays in a constant state of alarm. It's like dumping gasoline on a fire. But switch that out for anti-inflammatory foods, things like turmeric, wild-caught fish, leafy greens, and berries, and suddenly your body isn't fighting anymore, it's healing. The second step? Movement. The human body was never meant to be still. A groundbreaking Harvard study found that just 20 minutes of daily exercise can slash inflammatory markers by 40%. And we're not talking about running marathons. Just a brisk walk, some light stretching, or even standing up more often during the day can drastically lower your risk. And then there's sleep. You might think missing a few hours here and there isn't a big deal, but your body disagrees. According to the National Institutes of Health, just 1 week of poor sleep spikes inflammation by 30%. That's because sleep is when your body does its deepest healing. Without it, those fires inside you keep burning. The biggest mistake people make? Waiting. Waiting until a heart attack forces them to change their diet. Waiting until a stroke forces them to start moving. Waiting until a cancer diagnosis forces them to pay attention to what's happening inside their own body. But the truth is, by then, it's often too late. And chronic inflammation is just the beginning, because as the years go by, there's another silent threat creeping in, one that's responsible for more falls, fractures, and hospital stays than most people realize. And for many, it's the real reason they lose their independence. Number 4. Sarcopenia. Most people have never even heard of this word, but it's one of the biggest reasons why people over 70 become weak, frail, and ultimately don't survive. You see, the human body is designed for movement. Our ancestors didn't sit for hours in front of screens. They lifted, they walked, they used their muscles every single day. Their survival depended on their ability to move. But today, as people age, they stop moving. And when movement stops, muscles start wasting away. Sarcopenia is exactly that, age muscle loss. And here's the terrifying truth. It starts way earlier than most people think. By the time you hit 30, you're already losing muscle mass every single year. At first, it's barely noticeable. But fast forward a few decades and the effects are devastating. By the time someone reaches their 70s, they can lose up to half of their muscle strength. Why does this matter? Because losing muscle means losing independence. Think about it. What happens when someone struggles to get up from a chair? They stop getting up as much. When they have trouble climbing stairs, they avoid them. When lifting a grocery bag feels like too much effort, they let someone else do it. And before they realize it, they're barely moving at all. And then comes the fall. Falls are one of the most deadly events for older adults. Studies show that 1 in 3 adults over 70 who suffer a hip fracture never fully recover. Many end up in nursing homes, dependent on others for the simplest tasks, and within a year of a serious fall, 1 in 4 won't survive. That's how it happens. Not overnight, but gradually, silently. The strength that was once taken for granted slowly fades, and when the body needs it most, it's simply not there. But here's the thing. Muscle loss is not inevitable. It's preventable, and in many cases, completely reversible. A landmark study from the University of Birmingham found that even people in their 80s and 90s, even those who had been inactive for years, could rebuild lost muscle and regain strength through simple weight training exercises. And no, we're not talking about heavy barbells or grueling gym sessions. Just 15 minutes of resistance exercises 3 times a week can dramatically reduce the risk of falls, fractures, and even premature death. Yet most people don't do it. They assume, I'm too old or it's too late, but science proves otherwise. Because the truth is, your body doesn't stop responding to exercise just because you've aged. It's waiting for you to give it a reason to grow stronger. And that strength, it's not just about survival, it's about quality of life. The ability to walk without assistance, play with grandchildren, travel, cook, and live independently, all of it depends on maintaining muscle strength. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think that walking alone is enough. While walking is great for the heart and circulation, it does almost nothing to stop muscle loss. To rebuild muscle, you need resistance, something that pushes your muscles to work just a little harder than they did before. That could mean lifting light weights, using resistance bands, or even simple bodyweight exercises like squats, push-ups against a wall, or standing up from a chair multiple times in a row. And here's something even more encouraging. The benefits start almost immediately. Research shows that within just a few weeks of starting strength training, older adults can regain balance, improve mobility, and even reduce joint pain. It's never too late to get stronger. But sarcopenia isn't the only hidden threat that sneaks up on people after 70. There's something even more dangerous, something most people never consider until it's too late. Number 3, social isolation. Most people believe the key to longevity lies in eating right, staying active, and avoiding bad habits like smoking or drinking. But what if I told you that one of the deadliest threats to your health after 70 isn't a physical disease at all? It's loneliness. Yes, you heard that right. Social isolation is more dangerous than obesity, air pollution, and even smoking 15 cigarettes a day. A study from Brigham Young University found that loneliness increases the risk of early death by 45%. A statistic that should make all of us rethink what it truly means to stay healthy as we age. But why is loneliness so deadly? The answer lies in how it affects the body on a biological level. When a person feels socially disconnected, their stress levels skyrocket. The body produces excess cortisol, the same hormone released during life-threatening emergencies. But instead of a short-term response, chronic loneliness keeps cortisol levels dangerously high for months or even years. And what does that do? It weakens the immune system, raises blood pressure, damages the heart, and accelerates cognitive decline. People who are lonely are at a significantly higher risk of stroke, Alzheimer's, and even early death. Yet it's one of the most overlooked health problems in older adults. Doctors check for heart disease, diabetes, and high cholesterol, but how often do they ask, "Do you have someone to talk to?" Now, before you think this means you need to have a massive social circle, that's not the case. Studies show that just one or two strong relationships, a close friend, a caring family member, or even being part of a small community, can dramatically lower the risks of social isolation. Because at the end of the day, staying alive isn't just about keeping the body healthy. It's about keeping the soul connected. But while social isolation slowly chips away at longevity, there's another factor that takes a much more direct approach, a hidden health threat that weakens the body's foundation, leading to falls, fractures, and hospital stays that many never recover from. And that's exactly what we're about to uncover next. Number 2, poor cardiovascular health. Heart disease is the undisputed leading cause of death worldwide. But what's truly alarming is how early it begins and how silent it remains until it's too late. Most people don't wake up one morning with clogged arteries. It's a process that starts decades before the first symptom ever appears. By the time someone reaches their 70s, their heart has been working tirelessly for over 25 billion beats. And if that heart has been fighting against high blood pressure, poor circulation, and stiffened arteries for years, the risks of a fatal cardiac event skyrocket. But here's the part that shocks most people. Over 50% of heart attack victims never had a single warning sign. No chest pain, no dizziness, no breathlessness, just one moment of normalcy, and the next, their heart gives out. That's why hypertension, high blood pressure, is called the silent killer. It creeps up unnoticed, slowly damaging the walls of your arteries and forcing your heart to work harder and harder. Over time, this leads to strokes, aneurysms, kidney damage, and most commonly, heart failure. And what makes this even more concerning? Nearly half of all adults have high blood pressure, but most don't even know it. In fact, research from the National Institute on Aging found that 70% of people over 65 already have hypertension, yet a large percentage remain undiagnosed and untreated. But there's hope. Unlike many age conditions, high blood pressure is not inevitable, and controlling it alone could prevent more than half of all heart deaths. It all starts with one simple but powerful step: lowering sodium intake. The average person consumes nearly twice the recommended amount of sodium every day, mostly from processed and packaged foods. And here's what's terrifying: just reducing salt intake by half can lower blood pressure significantly within weeks. Next, potassium. The mineral most people overlook. Potassium is a natural counterbalance to sodium, helping the body flush out excess salt and relax blood vessels. Foods like bananas, spinach, avocados, and sweet potatoes are loaded with potassium and can dramatically reduce stroke risk. And then, there's movement. Most people assume they need intense workouts to improve their heart health, but the truth is just 30 minutes of walking a day can lower blood pressure, reduce plaque buildup, and strengthen the heart muscle. But while diet and exercise play a massive role, there's one overlooked factor that's just as deadly: stress. Chronic stress triggers a flood of cortisol and adrenaline, which can keep your blood pressure dangerously high even when you're at rest. That's why people under high stress, whether from financial problems, loneliness, or anxiety, have a significantly higher risk of heart disease. So while high blood pressure may be silent, your body is always sending signals. The question is, are you listening? Because here's the truth: heart disease is preventable. The real problem isn't aging, it's neglecting the small choices that add up over time. But heart health is just one piece of the puzzle. What if I told you there's another deadly risk that's hiding in plain sight? One that's just as lethal, yet rarely discussed. Let's talk about the final one. Number 1, metabolic disorders. If there's one thing that silently shortens lives after 70, it's metabolic disorders. These are not just minor health conditions. They are the root cause of nearly every major disease that claims lives in old age: heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, kidney failure, and cancer. And yet, most people have no idea that their metabolism, something they've barely thought about, has been in trouble for decades. The research is staggering. A study from the University of Southern California found that over 90% of people over 50 have some form of metabolic dysfunction. That means only 1 in 10 people actually have a properly functioning metabolism as they age. But what exactly is metabolic dysfunction? It's when the body loses its ability to properly regulate blood sugar, store energy, and burn fat efficiently. And it's caused by a lifetime of slow, unnoticed damage, primarily from insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is the real silent killer. It doesn't cause pain, fever, or immediate symptoms, but over time it wreaks havoc on nearly every organ in the body. Here's how it works. When you eat, your body releases insulin to help move sugar from your blood into your cells for energy. But when your diet is filled with too many refined carbs, sugars, and processed foods, your cells stop responding to insulin properly. The result? Chronically high blood sugar, constant insulin spikes, and a cascade of damage that accelerates aging, fuels disease, and leads directly to obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Most people assume that insulin resistance is only a problem for diabetics. But here's the truth. By the time someone is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, their metabolic health has already been declining for 10 to 15 years. And it doesn't stop at diabetes. Studies show that insulin resistance is directly linked to Alzheimer's disease, which some researchers now call type 3 diabetes because of how it destroys brain function. But here's where it gets even scarier. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that people with metabolic dysfunction are nearly twice as likely to develop cancer. Yes, cancer. That's because high insulin levels fuel tumor growth, while chronic inflammation caused by metabolic disorders weakens the body's ability to fight off abnormal cells. So if 90% of people over 50 already have metabolic dysfunction, what can be done about it? The good news is that it's never too late to fix your metabolism. The first step is cutting out processed foods and refined sugar. The biggest culprit behind metabolic disorders is ultra-processed foods. Things like sodas, packaged snacks, white bread, and sugary cereals. These foods cause constant insulin spikes and destroy insulin sensitivity over time. Simply reducing processed food intake and replacing it with whole, nutrient-dense foods can begin reversing insulin resistance within weeks. Another crucial factor is increasing protein and fiber intake. Protein helps maintain muscle mass, which is essential for a healthy metabolism. Fiber slows down blood sugar absorption and feeds gut bacteria that improve insulin sensitivity. A simple rule to follow is to make sure every meal contains a source of protein and fiber. Meal timing also plays a significant role in stabilizing blood sugar and improving metabolic function. While fasting has benefits for younger people, it's not always ideal for those over 70, as it can lead to muscle loss and low energy levels. Instead of long fasting periods, focusing on balanced meal timing is a better approach. Having a protein-rich breakfast can help prevent muscle loss and stabilize blood sugar early in the day. Avoiding late-night eating can prevent blood sugar spikes overnight, which has been linked to poor metabolic function and a higher risk of heart disease. For those who struggle with larger meals, eating 3 to 4 smaller meals with protein and fiber throughout the day can help sustain energy and keep metabolism working efficiently. Movement is another key piece of the puzzle. Most people assume they need intense workouts to improve their metabolic health, But the truth is that just 30 minutes of walking a day can lower blood sugar, reduce insulin resistance, and strengthen the heart. For even better results, adding some form of strength training can be a game changer. Muscle tissue acts as an insulin sponge, helping the body use insulin properly and burn stored fat more efficiently. Stress is another hidden driver of metabolic dysfunction. Chronic stress triggers a flood of cortisol and adrenaline, which can keep blood sugar and insulin levels dangerously high even at rest. That's why people under high stress, whether from financial problems, loneliness, or anxiety, have a significantly higher risk of diabetes, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. Managing stress through deep breathing, mindfulness, or even simple daily relaxation can go a long way in restoring metabolic balance. Now that you know what's really killing people after 70, you also know how to avoid it. The truth is, aging itself isn't the problem. Neglecting your metabolic health is. And the choices you make today can determine whether you spend your later years active and independent or battling chronic disease. But knowledge without action changes nothing. So here's my challenge to you. What's one small change you can start today to improve your metabolic health? Will you cut back on processed foods? Add more protein to your meals? Maybe take a short walk after eating? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And who knows, your answer might inspire someone else to take control of their health too. If this video helped you, make sure to hit that like button because it really helps this information reach more people who need it. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on life-changing insights like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.